Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in today. So today I got a very special guest with me. Why don't you say hi, John?
Hey.
So John's pursuing a degree in Management Information Systems at the Ateneo de Manila University. Now, if you haven't caught it on our page yet, later this month we will be doing a very special 2-day series called Hiatus. Hiatus will be covering two main topics. One is the student entrepreneurship phenomenon, and the second is entrepreneurship in a COVID economy. John's going to be sharing his story later in the month in this series of ours. So John, why don't we get started with this with a short introduction of yourself?
I'm John Young. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Avion School, an edutech startup based here in Manila. And we teach Filipinos to become software engineers in 12 weeks for a share of their future income.
I just wanted to ask, how's college so far?
Yeah, so I'm actually not in school right now. I just left to work on this full time.
Living the Silicon Valley dream, I see.
For sure, man.
Could you expound a little bit on your startup and what it is trying to do?
Right. So we're Avion School and we teach Filipinos to become software engineers in 12 weeks for a share of their future income. We do this by running part-time and full-time courses in web development. And what makes our education different is that we spend a lot of our time talking to these different tech startups and figuring out what they look for in new hires. What tech stack they're using, what skills do they need, and then we build that on top of our curriculum. You also don't pay anything upfront. So what we offer is an income share agreement in which we share 17% of your income for 2 years, only if you get hired. And we do that to really realign incentives between the school and the student. Because if you think about it, schools always promise you that they're preparing you for the real world. But when you think about it, they're not actually accountable to fulfill that. We have skin in the game, and we will only succeed if our students succeed with us. We also have a very strong team. So my co-founder, Victor, used to run growth and customer success in Paymongo. Our instructors come from the best startups here locally and abroad. So as opposed to your college professors who haven't been in the industry for the past 5, 10, 15 years, right? We have instructors who know what's practical today and who knows what needs to be taught right now. And our advisors, we have Francis, he's the CEO of Paymongo, and we also have Justin, who's a co-founder of Tinder, who have both been very helpful in just getting us set up, introducing us to the right people, and just really getting this started and launched. And we also have a pool of investors and advisors who have put money in companies like SpaceX, Brex, and Lyft. So that's us. We're Avion School, and we're gonna change education.
You mentioned a whole lot of things, and
right.
That's seriously impressive, right? Like from the people, the connections, and of course what you're trying to do. Could I ask, like, what contributed to you starting Avion? Like, did anything come out of your high school or college experience that prompted you to start Avion?
Right, great question. So we were actually planning to go remote prior to the COVID situation. Just a couple of reasons why. It's cheaper, it's more accessible, and you are able to reach a lot more people. Just to give you some glimpse also to the type of students we onboard, we have people coming in from all the way up north, all the way down south. And one special case is even that we have a student who logs in from Dubai. In terms of location, like, it's just so fascinating nowadays that anyone from anywhere, as long as you have a stable connection, a decent enough computer, you can have access to great education. And a lot of people are surprised that colleges are transitioning from face-to-face interactions to remote learning. But there was this guy called Clayton Christensen who is very famous for this book called Innovator's Dilemma. Mm-hmm. And shortly after that wrote Innovative University. And he talks about why this is happening, right? He was already predicting this very early on. And what he really just emphasizes is that, at least from his research, he figured out that markets usually move towards that. Anything that's more cheaper, more accessible, not necessarily because the product is better. And that's what we're seeing today. Aside from the effect remote learning has had on us, or the COVID situation has had on us, I do think remote learning has had an effect on the way people view education. If you think about the college experience, it's really two things, right? It's the education, and it's also meeting new people. It's also the random occurrences of in-person interactions. But nowadays we're seeing college stripped down. We're only seeing it only for the education, right? Yeah. But and because of that, people are starting to really question that exact value. Is the tuition they're paying for worth the value that they're receiving? And I think that's great that people are starting to question. People are starting to wake up, solely because it's a reminder also for schools, to do a better job.
That really gives me something to think about. especially as someone who's studying abroad and home now.
Right.
I'm doing remote learning, right? I just have one last question for you. Just to cap this whole intro off, what advice can you give your fellow college students, I guess, or even incoming college students with regards to being an entrepreneur while still being a student, you know?
I think for anyone who's navigating their college years, or maybe even outside of that, there are some few principles that I live by. One is to really not waste my time. You know, it sounds so simple, but I do see a lot of people who neglect it. If you spend, a good rule of thumb would be that if you spend it with people you care about and invest it in learning what you want, it's very hard to lose in that. And just to add to the learning side of things, I think people rely too much on school as their only source of truth. I do think there's value in deviating from that every once in a while, solely because no one is going to teach you how to think for yourself. And a lot of the people around you are mistaken. So if you internalize this practice and come up with your own worldview, you won't fall into the trap of subscribing to really poor systems of thinking.
From just the two lessons you said, right, I can see how it really links back to the reasons why you started Avion and perhaps your whole entrepreneurship journey. So I really want to know more about your story, right, personally, and what other factors have led you to become an entrepreneur and ultimately to establishing Avion. I'm super excited to catch your story later this month, and I hope all our audience out here watching this is too. Thanks so much, John, for coming in today.
Thank you, Zach.